When you prioritize God, when you deliberately, consciously, and consistently put Him first, something profound begins to happen, not just around you, but within you. Your life begins to reorder itself, not by accident, but by divine intention. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. The chaos that once overwhelmed you begins to lose its grip, not became quieter, but because your spirit became anchored. There is something about seeking God first that shifts the very atmosphere of your life. It redefines what matters, it resets your values, and it repositions you for purpose, not pressure. The tragedy of modern life is that we are conditioned to chase what the eye can see. The car, offense of the house, the recognition, the applause. We are told that these things are proof of success. We are told that to be relevant, we must be loud. Become the offense of, we must be seen, we must be constantly visible. But let me ask you, what is the point of being seen by the world if you are unknown in heaven? Become the offense of, what is the value of being liked by thousands if your own soul is lost in the noise? You can climb the ladder of success and realize only at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. That is the tragedy of putting everything else before God. When you seek God first, you are not just saying a prayer. You are making a declaration that you no longer want to live by default. You want to live by design. Become the offense of, you are choosing alignment over ambition. And alignment brings a kind of power that hustle never will. You begin to understand that being busy is not the same as being fruitful. That activity is not always productivity. That not every open door is a divine invitation. Because when God becomes your priority, discernment becomes your companion. You no longer walk blindly into opportunities. You are guided. You no longer speak just to fill silence. You speak with intention. Your time, your energy, your focus, they are no longer scattered because they are rooted in purpose. And purpose, my friends, is not found in possessions. It is found in positioning your position before God. The world says chase after your dreams. But dreams without direction become nightmares. Seeking God first gives you direction. It gives you clarity. It shows you what to say yes to and what to boldly say no to. It teaches you that not every connection is a covenant, that not every opportunity is a blessing, that sometimes what the world calls delay, God calls protection, and that sometimes the very thing you're crying about today, you'll be thanking God for tomorrow. We live in an age of anxiety. Stress has become normal. Sleeplessness is celebrated as vacation. But why are so many people with success still restless? Why are so many who have everything still feel like they are missing something? It is because peace is not found in possessions. It is found in presence, and not just any presence, the presence of the living God. When He becomes first in your life, He gives you something this world cannot, counterfeiting peace that passes all understanding, a peace that silences fear, a peace that calms storms, a peace that holds you when nothing else makes sense. And don't mistake this for passive living. Seeking God first is not for the weak, it is for the wise. It takes strength to surrender. It takes courage to let go of your own plans. It takes maturity to say, not my will become the offense of, but yours be done. But once you make that decision, truly make it, you step into a dimension where things begin to align with precision. People walk into your life not by chance, but by assignment. Resources begin to flow, not through struggle, but through strategy. Your mind becomes clear, your voice becomes strong, and your steps become ordered. That is not coincidence. That is divine orchestration. The offense of, you see, the man who seeks God first does not chase validation, he radiates it. The woman who puts God first does not compete. She commands, become the offense of. Because favor is not something you fight for when you're aligned with God. It is something that follows you. The offense of, you don't have to manipulate what God has already prepared. You don't have to beg for what He's already promised. You don't have to fight for space when you've been called dominate. That is why Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. All these things, not some. All, but the addition only follows the seeking. The blessing only follows the prioritizing. Now, I know that in the noise of life, it is easy to get distracted, to wake up and immediately check messages, emails, schedules. The offense of, but what would happen if you paused before anything else and sought the face of God? The offense of, what would happen if you restructured your mornings around His wisdom? If you reorganized your ambitions around His purpose? If you stopped asking, what do I want today? And started asking God, what do you want from me today? That single shift in perspective could change everything, because the man who seeks God first walks in last and still wins. He may be underestimated, he may be overlooked, but heaven never forgets who put God first. We live in an age where self is exalted and submission is seen as weakness. We are told to believe in ourselves, trust our instincts, follow our hearts. The slogans sound empowering, yet beneath the surface, something deeply unsettling occurs. We begin to build altars to our own image. The moment we put self at the center, we dethrone God. And when we dethrone God, we do not become stronger, we become slaves to our own limitations. Is why seeking God first is not simply a spiritual suggestion. The offense of it is an act of liberation, is a breaking of the idol of self and a surrender to something infinitely wiser, greater, and more trustworthy than our own fragile understanding. To seek God first is to admit a profound truthing: we are not in control. And for many, that is a terrifying confession. But let me tell you, there is more peace in surrender than in control. There is more clarity in submission than in self-reliance. Because what is control really? A desperate attempt to manage outcomes, manipulate results, and protect ourselves from uncertainty. But life by nature is uncertain. No man can predict the next breath. No woman can guarantee the next moment. So why do we cling so tightly to the illusion of control? Why do we pretend that we are gods of our own fate? The philosopher may argue that man must be autonomous, that freedom lies in self-determination. But I challenge that. To become the offense of true freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is the ability to do what is right, even when your flesh resists it. And that wisdom does come from within, it comes from above. When you seek God first, the offense of, you are not diminishing yourself, you are positioning yourself to receive insight that you could never reach on your own. You are humbling your intellect so that revelation can enter. You are silencing your ego so that truth can speak. And in doing so, you discover that the greatest form of intelligence is not found in pride, but in surrender. Pride is the enemy of divine direction. Pride whispers, I've got this, I don't need help, not become the offense of, I know what's best. But how often has pride led people into destruction disguised as success? Become the offense of, how many have built empires with their name on it, only to crumble under the weight of their own ego? How many relationships have shattered? The offense of, not because of a lack of love, but because of a refusal to submit to godly principles. You see, pride blinds. It inflates the self and deflates the spirit. And as long as pride reigns, God remains a stranger in your decision making. But when you seek God first, pride dies. And when pride dies, peace is born. You begin to make decisions not from a place of desperation, but from discernment. You no longer need to impress because you are at rest. You stop chasing validation. Come the offense of, because you've already been affirmed. That's the paradox of seeking God. The lower you bow, the higher you rise. The more you decrease. Become the offense of, and where He increases, confusion cannot stay. We must also speak plainly. Many in our generation have replaced God with self-help philosophies. We read books, watch influencers, repeat mantras, light candles, and speak affirmations, but we forget that transformation is not the fruit of motivation alone. It is the result of revelation. Become the offense of, and that revelation only comes when we step outside of ourselves and submit to the one who sees the end from the beginning. Self can inspire you, yes, but it cannot save you. Self can motivate you, but it cannot heal you. Self can build an image, but only God can give you identity. Seeking God first is the most radical thing you can do in a world that worships self. It is to say, I am not the center of the universe. I do not have all the answers. I need guidance, and that is not weakness. It is wisdom. If the wise man understands that independence from God is not strength, it is suicide. He understands that there are battles his intellect cannot win, doors his charisma cannot open, and storms his strength cannot calm. But what the mind cannot solve, the spirit can reveal, and what the heart cannot carry, God can lift. In the offense of, this is what makes seeking Him first the highest form of clarity in a culture drunk on confusion. We must confront the myth that we can figure life out on our own. We must dismantle a lie that says our worth comes from performance, often from possessions, from visibility. Because here is the truth, that no matter how much you achieve, if your soul is not anchored, you will always be adrift. The applause of men may excite you, but it cannot sustain you. The platform may elevate you, but it cannot protect you.
When you seek God first, you are not merely practicing a religious ritual or offering a polite nod to the heavens, too. You are entering into a divine exchange that transforms your life at the deepest levels. You are stepping into a posture of alignment, a position where heaven begins to move on your behalf, not because of your effort, but because of your obedience, too. And in that alignment, something profound happens. You begin to receive what the world cannot offer, and you begin to stop chasing what God has already prepared. Peace, direction, and favor, these are not random blessings that fall from the sky. They are fruits of divine alignment. The peace that surpasses understanding is not born from escape or detachment. It is born from presence. God's presence. The direction that provides clarity in chaos is not a product of intellect. It is a product of intimacy with the source of wisdom. And favor, the kind that lifts you when others are striving, is not earned by manipulation or merit. It is given freely to those who seek the giver, not just the gifts. Now consider the world around you. It teaches that if you want peace, you must meditate harder, isolate longer, or cut off anyone who disturbs your energy. But that is not peace. That is escape. Real peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of God within the noise, the kind of peace that allows you to sleep in the storm, not because the storm is silent, but because your soul is anchored. That kind of peace does not come from vacations or temporary relief. It comes from knowing who goes before you, who stands beside you, and who lives within you. When you seek God first, you no longer navigate life by impulse. You begin to move with insight. You stop reacting and start responding. Your decisions are no longer driven by desperation or anxiety, but by wisdom that flows from communion. That's direction. Not just movement, but meaningful movement. The kind of direction that saves you years of wasted energy, broken relationships, and wrong turns. It is not speed that makes a man wise. It is accuracy. And accuracy can only come from seeking the one who sees what you cannot. Too many chase opportunities without asking whether they are divinely assigned. They push down doors, force connections, and call it ambition. But you must understand, when you seek God first, some doors will close, not to punish you, but to protect you. Some people will leave. Not because you failed to, but because they were not part of your future. Some delays will occur. Not because God is silent, but because He is setting the stage for something your current capacity cannot yet contain. That is the wisdom of divine direction. It is not always convenient to, but it is always correct. And then there is favor, that mysterious force that makes the ordinary extraordinary, the favor that surrounds you like a shield, that opens doors you did not knock on, that places your name in rooms you have never entered. That kind of favor does not come from striving. It comes from seeking. It is not given to those who hustle harder, but to those who surrender deeper. Because heaven does not respond to noise, it responds to obedience. You don't have to fight for what God has assigned to you. You don't have to beg for what He's already written in your destiny. You simply have to walk in alignment. The world will never understand this because the world teaches force. It glorifies grind. It celebrates exhaustion. But the kingdom of God operates differently. It is not by might nor by power, but by His Spirit. That is why those who seek Him first are not always the loudest, but they are often the most impactful. Not because of charisma, but because of consecration. Not because they are perfect, because they are positioned. And let me say, this favor is not always flashy. It may not look like luxury, but it will always feel like purpose. It is the kind of favor that sustains you in the wilderness and promotes you in the palace, too. The kind that keeps you from drowning in seasons of obscurity and elevates you in the right moment, not a second too soon, not a moment too late. You may not be the most talented, too. You may not come from privilege. But if you seek God first, you will see doors open that talent alone could not open. You will be preserved where others fall. You will be remembered when others are forgotten. Not because of who you are, but because of whose you are.